the Legal Corner podcast series. Welcome to today's episode of The Legal Corner, a podcast which covers a variety of legal issues to keep you informed. Hosted by attorney at law Khadine Harvey and communications specialist Leonardo Torres.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Legal Corner podcast series. I am your host, Khadine Harvey, attorney at law, and I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Leonardo Torres, our resident communication specialist. Good day to you, Leonardo. What's up?
Very good, very good. Colin, how are you doing today?
I am well. Always a pleasure to be in your company. Always a pleasure to be here doing this act of service to the people out there in terms of discussing relevant legal issues. And I'm very excited about our topic today.
Certainly.
In today's episode, we will be looking at the Children's Court. The Children's Court in Trinidad and Tobago came about as a result of the Juvenile Court Project, also referred to as JCP. The JCP was as a result of a partnership with the Judiciary of Trinidad and Tobago, the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, and the United Nations Development Program, UNDP. These courts deal with matters where the perpetrator of the criminal offense is a minor and seeks to use a more rehabilitative and restorative approach to justice as opposed to a retributive approach which seeks only to punish the offender. Joining us on the show to provide some insight into this topic is Ms. Khadine Harvey. Khadine Harvey is an attorney at law in private practice. She has been practicing for the past 3 years with a focus on civil, family, and criminal litigation. Khadine is also an attorney on the legal aid panel. At present, she is focusing on building her legal practice and soon her consultancy in industrial relations, having completed her qualifications in that field. Khadine has a passion for the law and current affairs and has a spirit of service, especially when it comes to lending assistance to those around her. Good day to you, Khadine, and welcome to the Legal Corner.
Good day, Colin. Hi, Leonardo. How are you guys today?
Excellent. Even better now that you are here.
We're very happy to have you.
So we're going to...
Well, I'm happy to be here today.
So we're going to jump straight into it. This is such an interesting topic, and I believe one that doesn't get much attention. So I'm looking forward to us having a conversation about it. So tell us, with respect to the Children's Court, where are the buildings located?
All right, so the Children's Court currently has 3 locations. There's one in Port of Spain on Elizabeth Street. There's one in Faizabad at the corner of Delhi Street and Faizabad Main Road. And then there's one in Scarborough. I think it's in Bacalet in Tobago. So it's just 3 locations right now.
Okay.
Right, so they will cover like the north, south areas. I think south the court will cover like any offenses committed in the south, just like how our magistrates court will operate in similar effects.
And how has the pandemic affected the operations of the Children's Court?
Well, just like all the other courts have had no choice but to go virtual, the Children's Court is also now virtual, fully operational. Prior to the pandemic, you get court orders almost immediately. It has not changed. Trials are being done virtually with no hiccups, no delay, and all that is tied up with the overriding objective of the Children's Court, to have children matters dealt quickly before the court. So it's very important that the Children's Court maintains its operations throughout the pandemic, just to ensure that children do not remain in the system for a long period of time.
Has there been any perceptible impact upon the children, given the fact that matters have switched to a virtual space?
There haven't been any real impact. because of the options to call into the court, if there's no device upon which you can appear and your face could be seen, you actually could call in to the court, or the court will call you. And well, of course, we have those children who would not have been able to access bail, because they may have more than one offenses previously, they would be at the YTRC, that's Youth Transformation and Rehabilitation Center. And they, of course, the prisons have their virtual centers. So they will be able to appear virtually.
Does the children court only hear criminal matters, or do they hear any other type of matters relating to children?
Definitely, the children court is not just a court to deal with children who are in a life of crime. We have children who are in domestic violence situations. They themselves as a child could go to the court and say, hey, I'm being abused at home. And, they will be represented by an attorney. The court could appoint an attorney through that attorney is known as a children's attorney. And they could make their application before the court, and the court could seek their interests as well. So then there are those situations where parents are unable to control their child. For instance, that child is not listening to the parent and going out, leaving the house late, lying late, getting themselves involved in criminal activity. And the parent probably not having any resources or any support or any assistance from anywhere else, seek assistance from the court. And they themselves go before the court by way of application, whether it's through an attorney or on their own. I think it's Section 61 of the Children's Act. And they seek the court's help to control the child. Whether that help means moving that child away from the home, or whether it means seeking, giving the family, the units, some sort of counseling. The court is there to assist in matters like that. It's called, those matters are referred to as CHINS. That's the acronym, Children in Need of Supervision. So the court becomes that supervisor of the children. Yeah. And in those cases as well, depending on what is going on in the household, the court may make an order for children authority to get involved, and then probation officers and social workers. And it's a whole unit getting involved to ensure that children, they're safe, their interests are being met. Everything is, the court is there, as you would have said, rightfully, Colin, at the start of your introduction. It's about rehabilitating, it's about protecting the children. It's not just dealing with children who fall in this life of crime. The children also have a say as well within the court system.
All right. So as we know, throughout the length and breadth of Trinidad and Tobago, and most courts on a whole in all jurisdictions, legislative framework governs their operations, right? But as it pertains to the children's court, what legislative framework governs the operations of that particular court?
All right. So back in 2018, with the whole startup with the Trans Court, I think that's when the Trans Court actually became operational. The children court rules actually assist in governing that court, just like how we would have the civil proceeding rules that will cover civil matters. And now we have the criminal proceeding rules governing criminal matters. We have the children court rules, and it governs from the time the child arrives at the court to be arraigned, the matter right through it, and even ends up with a monitoring phase of the matter, where the child at that point would have been sentenced, and the court now picks up this monitoring of the child until that sentence has been fulfilled. You understand? So as I said, it's a whole dynamic within the children court system. We also have the judges' rules for children, and those documents assist in having that court operating as effectively as it is now. I think it's probably one of the most effective courts right now in Trinidad and Tobago.
All right. Now, you would have mentioned the effectiveness of the court of this particular court, the children's court that we're talking about today. Now, it's public knowledge, throughout the length and breadth of Trinidad and Tobago, that it has been popularly said that sometimes people wait 10 years, 5 years, and stuff like that for their matters to be completed, right? So I'm getting that vibe so far that that's not the case in the children's court, correct?
Correct. Judges are upset when a matter is in the court past a year. Not when it comes to children. The children's court really tries to have this mandate where a child is not to remain with a matter hanging over their head for more than a year. So I've had matters that lasted 6 months. I've had matters that lasted 2 months, and then of course with the pandemic, certain things when we had that time off, we had no choice but to now go online, which would have pushed back some matters. But still, matters are coming to the court and they're being dealt with as efficiently and as effectively as possible. Of course, you have those matters that fall through the loop. Like I do have a matter that's going on to 2 years.
Wow.
And trust and believe the judge is not happy about it.
Okay.
But
Now,
that,
now as we would have established, right? So we understand that the children's court is quite efficient, and that's very, very good news. I'm actually quite happy to hear that the children don't fall within that system of repetition, appearing, reappearing, and matters are not being adjudicated on in a timely manner. But in the event that a child is within the system, he's being monitored or whatever that particular situation is, and the child turns 18, where he's now recognized as an adult in Trinidad and Tobago, and their matter is not complete in the children's court, what then happens to them?
Okay, so generally, as it should happen, when you turn 18, your matter should go to the magistrate's court. I have not had an experience where any of my clients have turned 18 and the judge sends the matter across the magistrate court. Most times, and it's a discretion of the court, of course, most times the judge, depending on where the matter has reached, would keep the matter on his or her docket and deal with the matter as such. So, as I said, it's a discretionary discretion of the court, and the court will see to the matter to its end. Sometimes judges threaten to send the matter across when the child turns 18 because of maybe that child in particular is giving some sort of problems at home or is causing too much resources of the court to be used. Like I have one matter in particular where that child has 3 times on bail, had to have his bail revoked. And not for the reason of a substantive matter, but for other reasons, whether he's threatening his mother at home and, the slew of issues that come with those things. But luckily enough, he's not yet 18.
Wow, so he has some time.
So he has some time, but in an instance like that, I could see a judge saying, "Nah, boy, I had enough. You're going to the magistrate court."
Right.
You understand? And then you fall victim to the system at the magistrate's court.
Right. Now, I heard you mentioned a little bit earlier of this term called children's attorney. Now, this is the first time I've heard that term. I don't know there was a particular type of attorney for children matters. Can you tell us what is the role of a children's attorney? Can you talk a bit about that?
I can, but funny enough, I probably was in a magistrate's court matter when I actually first heard the term children's attorney. And yes, I have been practicing insurance court since being called. And I was shocked at a magistrate's court matter insurance attorney. And even the attorneys who were appointed as insurance attorneys didn't even know what their role was. So I actually had to go into some reading up about it.
So I shouldn't feel so bad.
No, you should not feel bad at all. But the children attorneys are those attorneys who are appointed by the court and to protect the interests of that child. So in one matter in which I would have actually was not acting in the matter as a magistrate's matter, I was holding, I was waiting for my matter to be called. And these attorneys came on, Your Worship, I don't know what my role is here today. But when you listen to the matter, it's because there's a domestic violence issue within the home. And there were children involved. And they were just simply there to protect, to ensure that the interests of the children were protected at that point in time, whether the children need to be removed from the household because of the violence or, be placed in someone else's care, things like that. So their role is really to ensure that those children interests are protected and not overlooked by the court. Because children are usually affected in any instance that will take place at home. Right, so that is their sole function, just to ensure that anything occurs in court doesn't affect them. So let's say it's a domestic violence matter, and there's children in the home, and the children may not be being abused by either of the parties, but they are seeing the abuse. You understand? Or they may fall victim. Let's say something happens and they collect some sort of, they may be harmed in some form or fashion. You'll want to remove that child from the home. So they are there to ensure that the children are protected.
Gotcha.
Yes, and of course, those types of things will go towards children's authority as well.
Now, Khadine, we're going to be talking a bit about the penalties that the court can impose because, after particular with reference to criminal matters, a child may be found guilty after having committed a crime and so on. So tell us, what are the penalties that are normally issued by the court? You can tell us for criminal matters and then also for other matters, what sort of sanctions may be imposed.
All right. Well, criminal matters basically will follow the same penalties as will be listed out in our indictable offences or summary offences act. Right. There are fines and there is imprisonment, of course. Right. But because the court is one where it's based on restorative justice and rehabilitation, and that is their focus, you find that there's something called court-annexed peer resolution. Now, I've actually done one of these before where the child was charged, but he pleaded guilty at the first hearing. And upon pleading guilty, the judge decided, here's what, because of the type of offense it was, she referred that matter to court-annexed peer resolution. Now, what court-annexed peer resolution does, it's instead of imposing the usual penalties of imprisonment and or fines, it puts that child before a jury of their peers, so children within his or her age group, who now come up with creative sentences for that child based on his or her offense, right? Yeah, so there was just one matter I did actually in 2019 where it was a marijuana charge the child had, and he pleaded guilty at the first hearing, and then the judge decided, we'll send you to court-annexed peer resolution. And his peers, the peers advocate on his behalf, and then there is someone who advocates on behalf of the community, and they're all children. So they're all minors under the age of 18, and it's 12 of them, just like a jury, and they come up, So they go into a room after the advocate says what he has to say on behalf of the child, and then the advocate on behalf of the community says what he has to say on behalf of the community and how that type of offense will affect the community. And they came back with some really creative solutions. And one of the solutions was for him to write an essay to his Form 1 class. Yes, the child was young. To his Form 1 class about the effects of drugs and marijuana on the system, on your body. Right? That was one solution they had. The other one was that he indicated his interest was to become a farmer. He was interested in agriculture. So one of their solutions also was for him to start his own kitchen garden. Another solution they had, he had to write an apology to his mother. So, they come up with very, very creative sentences, if you want to call it that. And of course, with that, the court imposes deadlines for these things to be done by. With all of that, the children are social workers attached to the children because they are monitored when sentences are given. Those creative sentences are given because that person, the social worker, will now assist to ensure that you're meeting the deadlines and that you are, of course, following the court's order, because it becomes a court order. Those sentences become a court order.
Are there any weaknesses to this whole idea of court-annexed peer resolution?
I won't say it's weaknesses. I would say the creativity with the system may or may not assist the child in becoming a better person in society. Right? Now, why I'm saying that, it comes out onto the child's mindset. Now, we are adults and we all know how difficult it is to change our mindset unless you want to change your own mindset. Right? So a child may satisfy the court by completing all of his sentences, all of all these creative things, write his essay, do what he needs to do. The court says, okay, we are satisfied, you have complied with the order, and releases that child from monitoring or supervision. And a year later, or maybe 3 months later, that child appears before the courts again for something similar, And what then was the effect of those types of sentences on the child? And so that is probably the biggest weakness with the court-annexed peer resolution, because we're not certain if that child is going to be a repeat offender, whether those creative sentences have a positive impact on the child, or if that child just does what he has to do just to get out from under the court, and then they go back to their old ways. Yeah,
Are there
but they
any?
really can't make the mind of the child.
Of course, they say you make children mind, don't make their mind.
Correct, that's right. Correct.
So, what about the limits? Are there any limits to what these children can come up with in terms of sentence? Or they just have free reign in terms of what they're able to come up with?
No, they wouldn't have free reign. So there is an adult who will go into the room with them to deliberate, and that adult will assist them and let them know, what they could suggest from what they cannot suggest. You understand? So, everything is done within some sort of boundary.
Right. Excellent. I like the song of that. I find that is a very innovative idea of having the children involved in the whole idea of participating, in the whole judicial function.
Yes.
It's really, really innovative.
Correct. And it's usually done, that court-annexed peer resolution, it's not done during the week. So it's always a Saturday. I think it's like 3 hours that they put aside. And it is very innovative. And I kudos to the court for coming up with those types of innovative ways to rehabilitate the children back into society.
Now,
but the measure of success is something that we need to find out if it's really working and what kind of impact it's having on the children going forward.
I wanted to talk a bit about recidivism, because I heard you mention that persons may fall back, into their old ways and so on. So just give us an idea from what you have seen in your practice. Would you say that there's a high rate of recidivism, a low rate?
At a repeat offenders weekend, I literally was at home and my phone rang 3 times to indicate to me different clients. One of them, he is an adult now, but he has found himself caught up with the law as an adult. This will be his 3rd offense after having an offense as a child. Right? Then another child who was still before the court, unfortunately lost his life over the weekend. Again, breaching court orders. I don't know what he was doing, but he was shot and he lost his life due to the gunshot wound. And again, another child who, on the day that his bail was being revoked, 40 police officers assaulted them, but that's a charge, and damaged the police vehicle, broke, I think it was the windscreen of the vehicle, while his bail was being revoked and he was being rearrested and taken back to YTRC. He was, of course, then charged for the assault and malicious damage to the police vehicle. So, as I said, it could be a 50-50. There are some children whom you never hear about again in the system. I have a few of those clients, and then there are those, they come back all the time. Similar offenses, So that is why I say I'm not certain if that type of peer resolution actually works, if the creative sentence actually works. But then too, does incarceration solve any problems? You understand? So and that is the issue with the system as I see it. It's a mindset change that children need. And if you cannot get them to change their mind as to how they want to live their life, they're going to go back and do the same thing.
All right, so that brings me to the issue basically of monitoring, right? Now, do you believe that that monitoring phase of dealing with matters, do you see problems with that phase? Or what really does that phase entail? Are there maybe any loopholes that might be causing a repeat of these situations? What do you have to say about that?
Well, let's firstly start with the fact that the social services unit of the children court would definitely be overworked because of the number of children who come into the system every day. So that's the first issue there. How much work can one social worker do if let's say there are 100 children in the system and you have 4 social workers or 3 social workers? How much can they really do? So in terms of monitoring, what about probation officers? How much can they really do? So children are bound to fall through the loophole. Then you hear stories like when you go to court, you hear stories from the probation officers, but I attempted to get on to the child's mother, but I could not reach them. You understand? You attempted to do so. I tried 3 times and nobody is picking up the phone, or they're not returning the call, or they may have lost the phone or changed their numbers. There are a whole host of issues. Now, it depends on the type of offense that the court may see it fit to bring that child back before the court every month for the period of monitoring. Usually the period of monitoring is between 3 to 12 months, depending on what the offense was. So I had a one that was 6 months. But within that 6 months, nothing really happened. Counseling failed to start. So the end of the matter is where I think the children court actually has some work to do, where they have to monitor the children. That is where the children court probably needs to flip the switch and focus on that part, because that is where the children need the assistance, the counseling. As we know, these people are probably overworked, maybe underpaid and understaffed, And those are things that that's internal issues in the court, that's administrative issues in the court that needs to be fixed.
We are getting ready to wind down. Khadine, I'd just like to thank you so much for taking your time to be here with us. This has been an interesting and a very fun discussion, if I might say so. And I know that our audience are going to get a lot out of it. Right? So I just would like to thank you and wish you all the best in your practice.
Thank you very much, and I enjoyed the session as well. And I really hope that we could come back and hopefully speak about it some more, because there's so much work that the children court is doing, and they're having some sort of impact. Again, the measure of success we are not sure about. So thank you both.
I hope that probably when we get back, we would hear things like, that we're not having issues in the social workers being, understaffed, and we're getting issues of less repeated offenders and things like that. And we get a better restorative justice, for children who sometimes might be a bit misguided at times, but really just need that help, but attention within that help and not just lost within the system.
Correct. So I hope something changes. I mean, the court is young and they don't know what could happen within the next 5 to 10 years.
So this has brought us to the end of another episode of the Legal Corner podcast series. Remember to check us out on social media. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you for listening to the Legal Corner podcast series. For more information, please visit us at our Facebook or Instagram pages, or send your comments to thelegalcornerpodcast@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you.